Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Learner's Guide. Today we're going to continue our discussion on Magic the Gathering. Particularly though, what color should you play? So each of the colors have a very different idea of what to do in the game of Magic. We're going to run through each of the 5 colors. We'll talk a little bit about what their specialty is, what they're good at, and how that might apply to you as a player. And then we'll also take a look at some of the different color combinations, because you could play any combination of these 5 colors. You could play just 2, you could play 3, 4, or even all 5. Now, there are benefits to playing more colors, but there's also some downsides. So we'll take a look at that. And if you guys have any questions, as always, please let me know in the comments. But we're going to start with white. White is going to be kind of like the color of light and law in Magic. It's going to be the color that is most good at gaining life. So if you're always getting attacked by your opponents and it's hard to stay alive in games, white is going to be the one that gains tons of life. And they tend to be associated with creatures like angels and humans. Blue is going to be a bit of a controlling color. It's kind of stopping other people from doing things. It's this idea that everything that's happening kind of has an order and a place. So blue has things like counter spells, ways to stop your opponent from casting spells, or bouncing your opponent's creature so they have to play a creature and then pick it back up. Blue tends to be associated with creatures like wizards, and like sea creatures and sea monsters, things like that. Black is going to be the color of death and power. So any deck that plays black is probably very good at killing creatures or draining your opponent's life and giving it to yourself. And black is associated a lot with creatures like demons and zombies, things like that. The next one is going to be red. Red is going to be the color of fire, right? The burning things or chaos sometimes. And in this case, if you wanted to do direct damage to your opponents, so if you wanted to just 3 damage to their face instead of worrying about creatures, that would be a very red thing to do. And the creatures that red is usually associated with are things like dragons and goblins. And the last color is going to be green. Green is the color that is the best at playing big creatures. So while the other colors might get a creature that has like 5 power and 5 toughness, green might get the same, for the same cost, might get a 6 or 7 power creature. And they tend to be associated with creatures like elves and beasts. It's a very nature style color. And again, that's just a very, very basic overview of what the colors do and what they might do for you in a game of Magic if you were to pick them. But again, you can literally combine any of these colors, and they wind up creating a bunch of different combinations. The only trick is that the more colors you have in a deck, the harder it's going to be to play your spells. So you might want to keep that in mind. But if we were to, let's start moving things around, combine some of the colors, in this case white and blue, you're going to get a color combination called Azorius, which is going to be a color combination that deals a lot with like flying creatures or stopping your opponents from doing things, maybe by trapping your opponent's creatures and saying they're not allowed to attack, that kind of thing. If we swap blue for black and we have white and black, we get the Orzhov color combination. And this combination is very good at making tons of little creatures or killing your own creatures, killing your opponent's creatures to kind of get a lot of stuff happening on your side of the board. Maybe it's to help you draw cards or to get more mana, that kind of thing. The next one would be white and red, which would be the Boros combination. This is kind of like the main attacking color in Magic. If you want to get some creatures that are strong and fast and attack a lot, you're probably going to want these two colors together. If you were to put white and green together, you would get Selesnya. This is a color combination that focuses very heavily on making tons of little creatures and then making those little creatures very big. So you're able to increase the power and toughness of your creatures to just do tons of damage to an opponent. Alright, let's run through blue. So if we take blue and we combine it with black, we get Dimir, the Dimir colors. And this is the color combination for things like rogues wanting to be a little bit tricky, do some kind of tricky things on the battlefield. Maybe it's getting rid of some of your opponent's cards, or telling your opponent that, you know, you're either going to counter or kill their creatures, so they're not allowed to have any creatures. That's this color combination. The blue and red tends to be the combination of the Izzet, and this is a lot of casting spells. So maybe you're doing tons of damage, or you're playing a bunch of little wizards that can fly in and hit your opponent when you're casting spells, or that grow bigger every time you cast your spells. That would be red and blue. Alright, and the last combination with blue is going to be blue and green. This is going to be the Simic, and this is a color combination that's very good at what we'd call ramping, playing tons and tons of lands. So it's good at getting extra lands out of your deck, so that way you can play really big creatures later on. Alright, we'll move blue off to the side there. Our next color combination is going to be red and black. That is going to be Rakdos colors. This is the color that is a little bit chaotic. It tends to do tons of damage to everybody, sometimes yourself included if you're not careful. And it likes to play creatures that have extra effects when they die. So maybe if it dies, it deals 1 damage to your opponent, or something like that. The next one, red and green, is the Gruul combination. This is another one that's going to be about big creatures, but in this case, they're going to be kind of big and fast creatures. So it might be things like giants, ogres, things that do a little bit of extra damage when they hit people. Alright, and our last color combination is going to be green and black. That's going to be the Golgari color combination. And this is all about kind of messing with your graveyard. So if you kill your own creatures, these colors help you bring them back to life. So maybe you can get extra benefits from things dying, and then you just get creatures out of your graveyard, either cheap or maybe sometimes even for free if you've got the right cards for that one. Alright, so we're not going to go through all the 3 color combinations and 4 color combinations and 5 colors, but I did want to give a very quick rundown of 1 and 2 color combinations, especially because if you are just starting to play the game of Magic, I would highly recommend you play 1 or 2 colors just to kind of get the feel for it. As always, though, I am going to be posting ways in the description, ways for you to play online right now, because I know it's not always the easiest to play with friends at the moment. So if you're curious about any of the colors or any of the color combinations, or you just have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comments. And other than that, I will see you all on the other side of the Dungeon Learner's Guide.